Hello and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Matchday 5, Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, the game we are all waiting. Ronan Murphy, goals galore. What games we are watching in the Bundesliga. Stuttgart Dortmund was great. Leverkusen Wolfsburg was great. We are having a lot of fun.
We are having a lot of fun, and hopefully this will be the most fun we have this weekend with Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. It's the match we've kind of been waiting to see. Can this Bayern Munich team under Vincent Kompany win against a good team? Because their fixture so far have been very easy. So this is the real test for them. And after scoring 20 goals in the past week, can they continue to score goals?
Well, only 4 games played by the teams in this Bundesliga, and Bayern Munich scored already 16, Leverkusen 13, Stuttgart 12. So we watch Bundesliga because we know there will be many goals. Let's analyze this new match day with Ronan, with you guys. Leave your comments as always, and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's go on with the show. And this new Bundesliga match day starts on Friday. Dortmund, Bochum, horrible performance by Dortmund in Stuttgart, conceding 5, being washed off by Stuttgart. Only 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗏 was able to score, but the defense was really poor from the beginning of the game. After their Champions League debut against Bruges, Bochum, first point of the season against Kiel in the both teams to lose game. Well, time to bounce back, I guess, for Dortmund.
Yeah, they definitely need to bounce back. And there's a story after coming out in Bild that some of the players are unhappy with the new coach already. So that's not the best sign. Yeah, there's a story that they're unhappy with 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 being used out of position, the defensive changes he's been making game to game. There's no real consistency to the team, and that's what we were hoping maybe 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗏𝗏 could bring in. We kind of saw it for the first couple of weeks of the season that they were keeping clean sheets. They were getting kind of comfortable wins. They weren't scoring loads of goals, but they were kind of getting 2-0 wins and things like that, and being able to rack up the points. So this is the first kind of sound of discontent, and it's not really a surprise after they lost 5-1, because that's what happens when you lose 5-1. The manager came out and slammed the team. He said the basics weren't there. Called it a non-performance, and some of the players even kind of followed through with similar sort of expressions of disappointment and frustration after the game. So they kind of really need to bounce back in this game, and I suppose what better way to bounce back than a home game against Bochum, because Dortmund haven't been great on the road at times, but they've usually been very good at home. They haven't lost a Bundesliga game since April at home, and they've won their last 4 home games in the league. So coming home and going back to basics is kind of what they want. 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗏𝗏 wants the basics to be right, so hopefully they can get the basics right here. And Bochum, you said they were in the both teams to lose game last week, and they held on for a point, as usually happens in those sort of games, but it's unlikely they're going to get any points here, because it's a very tough task to go to Dortmund. We all know about the stadium, the yellow wall, how intimidating it can be. So it's going to be tricky for Bochum, and maybe we'll see another kind of scenario like we saw for Bochum last week, where the manager took off a player after 15 minutes because he wasn't happy with the performance. It wasn't an injury substitution, but they went 1-0 down. The manager took off Maksimovic, and he changed things around, and they held out and got a point in the end. So whether Maksimovic can come back and start, it remains to be seen, but that is not a vote of confidence from your manager. So these seem like 2 teams that maybe need to pull the socks up for their manager, but Dortmund socks should be higher because they are a team with much better players. So they should be a team that should be looking for maximum points here. A very convincing performance could be a way to kind of put the doubters away, to end that sort of speculation, to stop these leaks from the dressing room and these reports that are in German media. So I think this could be a big win for Dortmund. Bochum are yet to keep a clean sheet this season. They're definitely not going to get here. So I think Dortmund could get off to a nice start here. Total goals in the first half looks like a good option here. Over 1.5, that's 1.96. Total goals over 3.5 is another option for the entire match, 1.91. Dortmund to win at half-time and at full-time home is 175. But I just like the fact that I think Dortmund can turn things around against a team like Bochum at home. My overall tip for this one is Dortmund Asian handicap minus 1.75, and that's 1.94.
Well, let's see if they are able to beat Bochum in the head-to-head in Oddspedia. We can see that in the last 7 years, 3 wins, 3 draws, and 3 wins for Bochum. But it's true that it's counting a couple of friendly games. A couple of years ago was a shocking win for Bochum, 4-3 in the Westfalen Stadium. By the way, Dortmund playing at home against Celtic in the Champions League the following week. They have to bounce back. Right now, they are 8th in the standings. On Saturday, Gladbach Union Berlin, only 1 win this season for Gladbach against Bochum. And they lost to Frankfurt, they lost to Stuttgart. So it's a poor start of the season. Again, the opposite for Union Berlin, 8 points, making a fortress at home, 2 wins and 2 draws. So still undefeated. Great start for Union Berlin.
Yeah, it is. And like we said in the previous shows, they're trying to keep the goals down and keep the goals up against column low, and they've seemed to do that. Obviously, they conceded in that game to Hoffenheim, but it was a convincing win. They deserve to win. This Union Berlin team seem hard to beat at the moment, and they're one of only 3 unbeaten teams in the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich at the top, obviously, but Union Berlin and RB Leipzig are the other 2, and Leipzig and Union have the exact same record so far. 2 wins, 2 draws, 4 goals for, 2 goals against. So don't expect exciting matches with Union Berlin, but don't expect them to lose too heavily either, or lose at all at the moment, because they seem to be a very difficult team to break down. And similarly, Gladbach found that against Frankfurt last weekend. We thought that match was going to have lots of goals, but Gladbach couldn't get on the score sheet themselves against Frankfurt. Frankfurt deserved to win. They looked a much better team, and Gladbach kind of need to find their own scoring boots, because they haven't really had the best history against Union Berlin. Like you said, when you look at the history on Oddspedia, you look back to the last few years, there's no wins at all for Gladbach, really. The last win is back in 2020, was the last time they win. And if you look at the last meetings between the sides, there was 2 1-alls, 3 2-1s in the last 8 meetings. So this match seems to be a kind of one where don't expect too many goals here, but if there are goals, it'll be a 1-1 or a 2-1 most likely. The most common result historically has been a 2-1 win for Union Berlin. So both teams to score, yes, looks good here for me, 1.7. Correct score, 1-2. So Union Berlin to win 2-1. That could be another option here. That's 12. But I like the look of the fact that Union Berlin, they just seem very hard to beat at the moment. Gladbach are finding it very hard to win at the moment. So Union Berlin, draw no bet, 2.5 looks very good here.
Well, let's see if away from home they are also able to catch a result. Gladbach last season they were poor, disappointing, and the start of this season hasn't been better at all. Next game is Freiburg, St. Pauli, the opposite for Freiburg. Great start. This season they are not in Europe, and they've only lost to Bayern Munich, beat Heidenheim, and it's not easy to win there. 3-0, also beat Stuttgart, for instance. And I love these odds to back Freiburg, 1.7. I didn't think it was true, to be honest. St. Pauli only 1 point, that draw against Leipzig, that again, no one expected. But even Freiburg Asian handicap -1 looks great to my eyes.
Yeah, it does. It's hard to look past any sort of Freiburg positive result here, because St. Pauli, like you said, they've only 1 point so far this season, and that was last weekend, and it was a scoreless draw against Leipzig. So not like they scored goals to get that point, and they've been finding it hard to get goals this season. They've lost both away games so far this season, 1-0 defeat at Union Berlin and 3-1 defeat at Augsburg. And I don't think Freiburg is going to be much different for them. It's going to be another tricky away task for them this weekend, because Freiburg have been excellent at home so far. Like you said, the wins they've got, obviously Heidenheim away is a huge win, but even more impressive was to start the season with a 3-1 win against Stuttgart at home. So they've been producing very good performances at home. Followed that up with a 2-1 win over Bochum at home. So I think they can make 3 wins from 3 at home here, because they are a much better team. St. Pauli, obviously, they're adjusting to life in the Bundesliga. They did excellently well last week to pick up a point against RB Leipzig on another day against a Leipzig team that maybe are firing on all cylinders, which they definitely aren't at the moment. They would have got nothing there, but they were lucky enough to pick up a point. They would be glad of that point at home and in front of their home crowd in Millentor. It's obviously another fantastic atmosphere, but it's a different story playing on the road. It's a different story playing against a Freiburg team who have started the season brilliantly and have only lost one game to Bayern Munich, like you said. So Freiburg should be looking to win this, take maximum points again. It's hard to look past any of the odds kind of in Freiburg's favour. Freiburg clean sheet, I like to look up as well as them winning 2.45. That looks a good one because St. Pauli have only scored once so far this season. And they'll probably find it hard to score here because Freiburg are usually solid enough defensively. So Freiburg to win to 0 is another option for this one, 2.9. But like you said at the start, that Freiburg just straight win against a team that's promoted, playing at home, having won every match at home, it looks really like one of the best tips of the day.
So good, these odds for Freiburg. St. Pauli able to get a draw from Leipzig. Next game is RB Leipzig, Augsburg. Leipzig dropped points against Union Berlin, and St. Pauli without scoring surprised us, even lost to Atletico de Madrid in the last minutes in the Champions League. They have a tough game against Juve in the Champions League. So apart from the win in Leverkusen, which of course is a big thing, I guess the start of the season could be better for Leipzig.
Yeah, it is. Some of their young players they look a bit burnt out maybe after such a long season last season, playing in the Euros, playing in Europe, all those sort of things. They just don't look as sharp as you would expect them to look at this stage of the season. Xavi Simons hasn't looked his best. He looks tired. Maybe they'll give him a rest to focus on the Juventus game, but they should have enough depth to rotate their squad for these games, because that's why they've been invested heavily in young players. So you would hope some of these young guys can kind of find their form again, because 𝗀𝐿 has been diabolical so far this season for Leipzig. After he was rumoured to be going here, there and yonder during the summer, it seemed like it might be a busy transfer window for him, but it just hasn't worked for him. And maybe he's getting flashbacks to the Euros and the disappointment there. Perhaps that's happening, but he needs to be better in front of goal. And when against St. Pauli, when Openda came off the bench, they looked much better than they did when 𝗀𝐿 was on the pitch. And I think maybe he'll get the start here in the game against Augsburg, and he should be able to maybe provide some of the goals and the attacking threat they were missing for large parts of that match. And I think that this match is one that Leipzig will look to find their shooting boots in this one, because they've been very disappointing. Like I said, when I was mentioning Union Berlin, 2 wins, 2 draws, just 4 goals scored. That's not what you expect at all from Leipzig. At this stage of the season, there's matches where they score more than 4 goals. This could be one where they look to score a lot of goals. If you look back to last season when they hosted Augsburg in this match, it was 3-0 to Leipzig, and they will be looking for something like that again, because in the past 3 home games they've played against Augsburg, they've scored 3 or more goals in each of those. They scored 2 goals in the away game against Augsburg last season, so they should be looking to get goals here, especially looking at the way Augsburg themselves have been conceding goals. Their average goals conceded so far this season in all competitions is 2.5 goals. So if Leipzig can't score here, they won't be able to score anywhere, really. So they need to score here, and I think they should be looking to, if Openda starts, they should be looking for him to be the man to provide the kind of difference. So I like the look of him as an anytime goal scorer in this one. If he does start, it's one to keep an eye on. That's 1.67 for Openda, anytime scorer. But I think Leipzig, they really need to start scoring, and this should be the match that the coach has earmarked where they can. So I like to look of Leipzig to score in both halves as the option here, 1.87.
Let's see if they bounce back after the draw in Hamburg against St. Pauli. And again, they have a tough game in the Champions League against Juventus. You were mentioning goals, Mainz, Heidenheim. I expect plenty of goals in this game, because all games played by Mainz ended up in both teams to score. Heidenheim, as we know, they are a high-scoring team, or in their games there are a lot of goals. In the previous one, 3-0 defeat against Freiburg, 4-2 defeat against Dortmund. So I don't like the odds, to be honest, to back Mainz. 1.8, I guess, is a bit low, but the goals market could be a good option.
Yeah, the goals is usually a good market for any Heidenheim game, and it kind of seems to be for Mainz at the moment as well. That was a 3-2 win they had over Augsburg last week. It looked like it might be heading for a draw at one stage, a score draw, but Mainz did enough with 10 men to hold on to be able to win there, and it was a very positive result for them on the road, and they will be looking to maybe score more goals at home against a Heidenheim team who tend to leak goals themselves. They conceded 3 at home to Freiburg, and they seem to concede lots of goals. Mainz concede lots of goals. So yeah, total goals, the goals market should be a way to look at this one. Both teams have averaged 2 goals a game, and if you look at the goals conceded, Mainz are averaging 2 goals conceded a game, and Heidenheim are averaging 1.8 goals conceded a game. So total goals over 2.75 looks very good. Like you said, obviously that's 2, so it's hard to look past that one. But another market that people in the comments were asking about was various corner markets. I think this could be one where there's lots of corners, because Mainz have had over 13.5 corners in 3 of their last 5 games and over 12.5 corners in 4 of the last 5 games. So they are a team that there's lots of corners involved in their games. There should be loads of shooting in this one. Heidenheim might not necessarily play their strongest 11 because they have to kick off their own Conference League campaign next Thursday. They're against 𝐬𝐵𝐴𝐴. So I think they could rotate a little, and that could provide for maybe more shots, more wayward shots, more saved shots, and as a result, more corners. So I like to look at the corners market in this one. Total corners over 9.5 in this one is 1.73. But I'm going to go even bigger and go total corners over 10.5 as the tip for this one. That's 2.15.
And talking about goals, Wolfsburg, Stuttgart, we saw rock and roll in both games. Wolfsburg losing to Leverkusen 4-3, conceding in the very last minute. It was a great game, plenty of chances, but Wolfsburg only 3 points, only 1 win against Kiel. But usually we see, again, both teams to score in their games. Stuttgart, it looks like they are picking up after a slow start. We saw them playing great at the Bernabeu, probably deserving more. 𝗀𝗛𝗏 looks on fire, scored in 3 consecutive games, and is a team that scored 8 goals in the last 2 Bundesliga games.
Yeah, 𝗀𝗛𝗏 has looked excellent, and you kind of were hoping that he would pick up that mantle of being the main goal scorer for Stuttgart. They spent a lot of money on him this summer, so he's actually has 21 goals in his first 34 Bundesliga games for the club, and only 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 had a better start in Bundesliga history for Stuttgart. So 34 games is obviously significant, because that's the length of a full Bundesliga season. So if he had been playing a full season, it'd be 21 goals, which is a great return for any Stuttgart striker. So he can continue scoring those goals, and I think he can definitely continue scoring them here, because Wolfsburg are a team that have lots of goals in their matches. They've had 3 or more total goals in 3 of their 4 games so far this season, and the only one that didn't have 3 or more goals in was a 2-0 win over Kiel. So they probably took the foot off the gas a little at the end. They didn't need to score any more goals because Kiel weren't going to score any goals against them. So Stuttgart are a very different proposition, and this match historically has been a match with lots of games, lots of goals in the games. Stuttgart won both games last season, 3-1 at home, 3-2 away. So this one is a game that has lots of goals. Stuttgart have had 3 or more total goals in every single game in every competition this season. So a total goals market looks great here, but I also would like to tie that in maybe to Stuttgart to win. Stuttgart to win by itself is 2.15, but Stuttgart to win and over 2.5 total goals in this match looks good, 2.7. But like you said, this is a match that's going to go goals. So if you're not as confident in Stuttgart winning as I am, but you are confident in goals, and I think we all are, total goals over 3 at 2 looks a great tip here.
Well, last season was 3-2 for Stuttgart. The game played in Wolfsburg, and 3-1 when they played in the Mercedes Arena. So Both games had plenty of goals. Stuttgart really, really entertaining team. As I said, they played a great game also at the Bernabeu. I'm talking about goals. I'm talking about great teams. Of course, the game of the games in Germany, one of the best games we are going to see across Europe. Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, already first and second in the standings. Everyone should think, I guess, Ronan, this is a game of plenty of goals, 4 or 5 goals in Leverkusen games, already 22 goals scored, 13 scored, 9 conceded for Bayern Munich, 16 goals scored, 3 conceded, and in the last 3 games played by both teams, 32 goals scored. So this should be a goal feast, a great offensive football.
Yeah, I didn't check the odds for a 0-0 for this one, because I don't think anybody is seeing that one happening, because it should be a match that provides a lot of goals. And you read out Bayern Munich's record so far there: 16 goals for, 3 against, 4 games, 4 wins. That's the best start in Bayern Munich Bundesliga history Vincent Kompany has had. But obviously, you have to take into account that the teams they played so far, the games in all competitions so far, reads as follows: Ulm, Wolfsburg, Freiburg, Kiel, Dynamo Zagreb, and Werder Bremen. So it's not like they've played a great team yet, and this will be their first real challenge to the Vincent Kompany era, because the manager he beat for that record of the best start was Carlo Ancelotti, and we know that he wasn't able to win all the trophies with Bayern Munich. They won the league by 15 points in the 2016-17 season when he had that start, but they just weren't able to win the Champions League, which is what Bayern Munich need to win and expect to win. So this one is the battle for the title in this early stage of the season, and Bayern Munich will be looking to win it, but Xabi Alonso will be doing everything in his power not to. The only thing is, his team seem to concede too many goals, and he's been frustrated about that. He's pointed out about the problems there, that they need to be better at the back. But looking at the match last week, a 4-3 win over Wolfsburg, they haven't really improved things at the back. They're still relying on these late winners. So it could be the case that Bayern Munich are too good for Bayer Leverkusen. Harry Kane is obviously scoring so many goals this season, but Michael Olise, he's getting goals and assists. He's proved an excellent transfer for them, and Pavlovic in midfield seems to be the next Toni Kroos, and Harry Kane came out after the match saying that he's getting better and better, and he's very impressed with the young midfielder, and he looks to be the future of Germany and Bayern Munich, and he needs to maybe get more praise for that, and people on the outside maybe need to look at him a bit more and see how he is coming on in leaps and bounds this season, because I think Bayern Munich are only going to get stronger this season with him as long as he can stay fit. And Bayer Leverkusen, they kind of need to figure out which is the best way to play so they don't leave themselves open. Nordi Mukiele was taken off at halftime. Bolasie, in their new signing, he was taken off at halftime last week, making their Bundesliga debuts this season. And Alonso claimed afterwards that not to read too much into it, but it's hard not to read too much into it, because when you take players off at halftime, it kind of sends a signal to those players that they need to do better. And it might be a frustrating season for Bayer Leverkusen, because they're not the same invincible team that we saw last season. So I think Bayern Munich can cause them more problems here with a match that has lots of goals. Both teams to score, yes, obviously looks good, 1.42. Total goals over 3.5 is 1.94. This match always has lots of goals. There was 2-2 and a 3-0 last season. The previous season, Bayern Munich won 4-0 at home. So I'm not saying that's going to happen again. Bayer Leverkusen should get on the score sheet, but I think Bayern Munich have been scoring so many goals, they should keep scoring it, because Leverkusen's defence just hasn't been good enough yet. So perhaps an option here is draw at halftime, home at full time. That's 5.5. Bayern to win and over 3.5 goals is another one we're looking at. That's 2.9. But having watched Alvaro's videos recently, I'm going for Bayern Munich to win the second half, because it happens for Real Madrid. So I think it can happen for Bayern Munich too.
Well, we were saying in our videos that Bayern Munich, they haven't had tough opposition in this start of the season, but still they are scoring plenty of goals, 16 goals scored in only 4 Bundesliga games, plus 9 in the Champions League, no matter who are you playing against, is a great tally. What do you think about 𝗲𝗟𝗏𝗍? Already 3 goals. I guess it's a great landing to the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a great next step for him after Crystal Palace, because obviously he was linked with a team like Manchester United, and they're probably looking at him and kicking themselves after not signing him because he's playing so well in the Bundesliga. But obviously there isn't the same sort of media attention or outside attention. It's Bayern Munich, so there's more attention than any other team in Germany, but it's not to the same level of criticism perhaps that you would get playing for a team in England and a team like Manchester United. So it seems to be the perfect move for him. Vincent Kompany seems to be allowing him to kind of play freely the way he wants. He's not giving him too many instructions, because a lot of managers could maybe burden players like him with telling him too many things to do. Maybe if he played for Pep Guardiola, he wouldn't be as free or as exciting, because he'd be trying to pick the right position or get into particular positions, make particular passes. But he's playing with a great freedom, and that's why he's getting among the goals and assists. And I like the look of how he's adapted so quickly to this Bayern Munich team, and I think he will flourish here, and he will definitely get double figures for both goals and assists by the time the season's over.
Well, great game, this Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen. Tell me in the comments, who are you backing? Bayern Munich, great favorite for this game, only 1.8, facing the current champions. And 2 more games on Sunday. We have Kiel, Frankfurt, a great start for Frankfurt. If you are backing them, it's only 1.7. They are playing European football, remember, in midweek against Victoria Pilsen, but 9 points, only losing to Dortmund, 3 consecutive wins. So everything, I guess, is positive to back them against Kiel. Only 1 point, 13 goals conceded.
Yeah, this Frankfurt team are going to be busy, obviously, in Europe. Like I said, they have Besiktas away at the following week, so that could be a tricky tie. But I think Kiel in the Bundesliga is kind of the perfect match for them, sandwiched between these European fixtures, because we know how difficult it can be to play in Europe. You need a deep squad, obviously, but Frankfurt can navigate these next couple of weeks and start well in their European campaign. And Kiel should be happy to have picked up a point on the road against Bochum last week, but at home against Frankfurt, it could be a much more difficult match for them. They've conceded 2 or more goals in every game so far this season, including the cup win over Alemannia Aachen. So they are a team that tends to concede goals, and Frankfurt, as we've seen so far, they've been a team that score a lot of goals, and the only match they haven't scored 2 or more goals in has been the away trip to Borussia Dortmund, which is always a difficult task. So I think this can be another one where Frankfurt will score goals. Omar Marmoush looks very good so far this season. He has 4 goals in his first 4 match days, and that's the best return of any Frankfurt forward since Tony Yeboah back in 1993-94. So yeah, it's a long time since Frankfurt have had a player that they could rely on to be their number one. Obviously, you remember a few years ago they had Luka Jovic, Ante Rebic, Sebastian Haller, that kind of front three. But this is a time where they have one key focal point up front. And if he starts, he could be a one to look at in the goal scorer market. Omar Marmoush, anytime goal scorer, is 6, which looks very good for a player that tends to score all your team's goals, especially against a team that kind of are usually going to struggle against teams that are better than them. So that looks good at 6. Frankfurt over 1.5 goals for this one is another option. That's 1.57. Frankfurt to win by exactly 2 goals is 5. I think that could happen here because, yeah, Frankfurt seem to score lots of goals. Frankfurt win, like you said, 1.7 looks really good for that one. But if you want to go even further, which I like to look of, is Frankfurt Asian handicap -1. That's 2.12.
Poor Kiel, bad start actually for the 3 weakest teams in the Bundesliga before the competition started. Kiel, St. Pauli and Bochum, only 1 point, still no wins after 4 games for all of them. And the last game is Hoffenheim Werder Bremen, also Hoffenheim struggling, only 3 points, 11 goals conceded, lost to Union Berlin, Leverkusen or Frankfurt, all games, both teams to score, all 4 games, and Bremen, the opposite. The first defeat was against Bayern. I guess this could be easily both teams to score game.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. Especially with Bremen kind of looking to bounce back after that 5-0 home defeat. They will be eager to score themselves, obviously. And Hoffenheim, they don't really keep too many clean sheets. They won both games here last season. They won 3-2 away, 2-1 in this home match. So both teams score tends to happen here. Both teams score, yes, it's happened in all 4 matches these teams have played against each other. And both teams to score, yes, has happened in every single Hoffenheim game this season, including the Cup. So both teams to score, it's hard to look past it. So, yeah, both teams to score, yes, is 1.47 in this one. So, yeah, that could be worth a look. Bremen, to give their both teams score history, they've had both teams score, yes, in all their games except 2, and those 2 were Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. So, when they play anybody else that's not Bayern and Dortmund, they seem to score, they seem to concede. So, yeah, both teams to score, yes, looks really good. Hoffenheim might rotate here a bit because they have Midland in the Europa League this week and then 𝐷𝗲𝗏 𝐿𝐴 the following week. So that's going to be a difficult few days for them, kind of balancing the squad. So I think this one will be one where both teams will score. There will be plenty of goals. Total goals over 3.25 is 2 in this one. But I like the look of maybe this being a tentative game as both teams look to pick up points. So first half draw, I like the look of here, 2.6, and then anybody could go on to win the second half.
Okay, well, Ronan, plenty of goals, both things to score. We love to bet on this in the Bundesliga, and usually it pays off, apart from RB Leipzig that is winning some of our bets. Which one would be your safe bet?
My safe bet is Dortmund win 1.29.
And the ACCA?
My ACCA is both teams to score yes in all these games. Both teams score yes in Wolfsburg, Stuttgart, Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, and Hoffenheim and Bremen. That's a total of 3.24.
Okay, by the way, goalless draw was 37 in Bayern Munich Leverkusen, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess you have to be a bit audacious to bet on that, but who knows? Many times we expect so many goals, and at the end, we don't see goals. Indeed, 37, highest odds for 0-0 in Bayern Leverkusen. Well, Ronan, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye. Have a good one.